Oh hey, didn't see you there. Wouldn't it be cool if you could go back and experience WoW Classic fresh? Experience the game as it was in 2004 with none of the emotional baggage it holds today.
And by the way, you don't want to do that either. You think you do, but you don't.
Well, you can't. But you can live vicariously through me. I've never experienced Classic WoW. I wouldn't get to actually experience the game until Kata, and by then, the world of Azeroth had literally changed. I missed experiencing Classic and thought I never would. But I was wrong, and here we are, trying Classic for the first time. And because I clearly hate myself, I decided to have my first experience be hardcore. Here he is, our hero, Liftlight. This is a terrifyingly ominous bit of text. Welcome to a noob's journey through hardcore Classic. We enter Azeroth as a lowly level 1 toon, a rite of passage older than WoW itself. Our first quest is a staple in WoW, Slay and Collect. It proved to be easy enough, and we completed it without issue. After returning, we are rewarded with much needed warmth for our freezing fingers, as well as the opportunity for more quests and an introduction into the local area. Speaking of the local area, I was soon to learn that trogs, well, they're a reoccurring issue for the dwarven denizens of Coldridge Valley and beyond. While they were easy for me to dispatch, I was happy to replace this glorified shoestring I had on my waist. We headed into Anvilmar to hand over this rune, take our first steps into the Way of the Light, and to pick up our first Paladin aura. And promised to find this gnome's lost buckets and bolts, then cosplayed UPS and made our delivery to Talon Kenai, and promised to continue being a mailman and go hunting for him. Hunting boars along the way, we made our delivery, and learned of vile trolls encroaching on our dwarven turf. Since we're already multi-classing in mailman, I made this quick delivery of Scalding Mornbrew to Durnan in Anvilmar, and quickly nabbed a few paladin abilities. Completing a couple side quests along the way, we focused our attention on the looming troll threat, and slew them with ease. Being rewarded with a sweet 0.8 DPS weapon upgrade, as well as the opportunity to start using shields. We weakened the troll threat, but didn't eliminate it, and their leader had stolen our new friend, Relant's journal, so we had to get it back and stomp them for good. Gricknir the Cold was a formidable foe. With our dwarven blood, Stoneform was on our side, and with a mighty blow from our hammer, we slew the troll, and returned the journal. With that, we were poised to move on from Coldridge Valley. But don't worry, we didn't forget about our Nomi and Anvilmar. Moving through the pass, we see the return of the Trog problem. At this point, I was feeling nostalgic. Just a strange thing to feel for something you've never experienced before. Maybe there's another word for that. But with that, we had made it into the snowy hills of Dun Morogh. This is where hardcore would get hardcore.
Motherfucker, run! Freeze! Raider! I think he's Raider! He's right behind me, Raider! Raider, please stop! Raider, you're running a little too fast! Oh my god, Raider!
After picking up a few quests in town, I grabbed the profession of blacksmithing. I've heard from friends that gear can get pretty scarce in Classic, and I wanted to mitigate the possibility of me being super undergeared later down the line, and just being SOL at that point. Plus, the local wildlife of Dun Morogh can be less than friendly sometimes. I'd just rather be safe than sorry. The area definitely felt like a rugged Bear Grylls survival zone, but I didn't hate that. And while playing Delivery Boy wasn't the best, it truly felt like the citizenry was alive here. In any other game, if I delivered that ammo, they'd remain static, standing there. But here, they moved from their original position and immediately used it. See, even here, as I'm hearthing, you can literally hear one of the dwarf NPCs laughing at the other for missing their target. It's small details, but I feel this is where you get a peek at the soul of Classic and simultaneously what's missing from more modern games. That's just a theory, a game theory.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Our quests at this point were mostly beer and spirits focused, which, you know, makes sense for a dwarven starting zone. But one was deceptively dangerous, collecting shimmerweed. Thankfully, I met a handful of friendly gnomes, including one named Rimjob, and we all agreed to share the resources. It didn't take long before I had all the weed I needed, so I wished them good luck and headed out. Mid-questing, I got invited to a guild randomly. Normally, I immediately decline these because they're kinda like annoying cold calls from salesmen, but the name was too hilarious and I made an exception. And when we received our first cooking recipe as a quest reward, I decided at that time to take up cooking as a profession, figuring it would be helpful to have in the future. Then as we reached Gol Balar Quarry, I was finally able to grab mining. Heading to the North Gate outpost of Morogh, I learned of the fate of poor Maury Hildelv, the missing siege engine pilot, quickly grabbed their vest, and sought revenge for them on the dreaded Mangleclaw. The battle was closer than I would have liked, but I was victorious. Especially with the addition of this meddlesome leopard attacking right when I thought I was safe, and we returned to Pilot Hammerfoot with the somber news, receiving our very first green-statted piece of gear, and a weapon no less. We dipped our toes into the Loch Modan area to pick up a few quests, almost get ganked by an extremely aggressive bear, and to familiarize ourselves with the local town of Thelsamar before we make our first trip into Ironforge. This music had me geeking. It's so nostalgic. I love being a dwarf. We picked up one-handed and two-handed axe training because, duh, and headed back to Morogh proper to finish up some quests.
Off and away.
If someone knows what's going on here with these gnomes, in the comments, let me know. Please. Public transportation is killer, am I right? It was time to finally visit Stormwind, so we took the train. And enjoying the view, arrived in the Dwarven district. We did our normal mailman gig, and decided to explore the city a bit, picking up the flight path to Stormwind, just in case. Returning to Loch Modan, we decided to focus our attention on questing here, despite this close call where I nearly had a heart attack. And thanks to the friendliness of some fellow hardcore players, for a bit, we had an easier time with things. And we were able to pick up this awesome chest upgrade, and a ding! I returned to Ironforge to start the Tome of Divinity Paladin quest. Having no clue what the reward was, I was excited to see the powerful new ability that awaited me upon its completion, only to learn that the linen I just vendored was needed for it. So after farming for some more, I returned to Ironforge again, this time with linen in hand. Got confused on what I was supposed to do. Happened upon the dwarf I was supposed to save randomly while mining. Saved him. Found the script he needed, delivered it, only to learn my reward was an ability that can't be used in hardcore. By this point, I had been doing everything blind, no add-ons, no guides, just doing my best to read the quests and figure it out. I was clearly lost with no quests in sight, and my quest log was looking drier than my DMs. So I downloaded the Questy add-on to give me more of a fighting chance. And boy oh boy was it immediately the right choice. I mean, just look at all the quests I missed. Speaking of which, we picked up some of those missed quests, completed them, and picked up some more. I worried less about what I was missing and focused more on what I could see, like the amazing scenery. Did some mining, hammered away at some trogs. It was a great time, and before I knew it, I was handing in quests left and right. I even returned to Morogh to do a few quests I missed, including this one, where I grouped up to slay an elite named Vagash, and dropped by Elwyn Forest to slay Hogger solo, passing by the infamous Goldshire Inn on my way to questing in Westfall. At this point, I was just juggling quest zones, but the newest and currently most promising was Westfall, whereupon I was immediately greeted with a fetch quest, a collect quest, and a delivery quest. They're arguably some of my least favorite, more of a slay and collect or just slay quest kind of guy, but I'm not going to complain about an abundance of quests. So we immediately got to work grabbing more quests.
Have a good one.
While completing those we had already, and got ourselves started on the quest chain that would eventually lead us to the Deadmines, the Defias Brotherhood. Questing in the area was mostly chill, just slay, loot, collect, repeat. But it was deceptively chill. You see, hardcore is like a patient predator, just waiting for you to put your guard down. And when you do, that's when it strikes. Honestly, if I wasn't a paladin, I would have died already 10 times by now. And man, the Defias threat was no joke. They're an actual menace. These pillagers alone almost ended my run at least half a dozen times. Thankfully they didn't though. and dealing with the Defias Brotherhood was way more doable when I managed to get help from time to time. We took a small break to do some questing back in Loch Modan, which almost turned into a huge mistake. More than once. Seriously, I was sweating. But we made it, just barely. Thankfully, we were lucky enough that another player was nearby, and we quickly grouped up. I let them know how thankful I was that they were around, and with our combined strength, we crushed those quests, easy peasy. We learned of a Dark Iron plot to destroy Stone Rot Dam, and immediately set out to thwart it. But quickly discovered that's not the only plot the Dark Iron have. So we promised to protect Miran from any possible future Dark Iron ambushes, despite his determination to RP walk the entire way. And all that babysitting got us some sick new kicks. We did have a rough time with the local trogs, but with the help of a fellow dwarf, we were able to complete that quest, getting a sweet axe upgrade. And after defeating a few named trogs, we got a killer shield upgrade too. We dropped back over to Westfall at this point to take care of more of the Defias Brotherhood with the help of a mage that was doing the same quest, and for it was rewarded with a ding to 18. I was feeling closer and closer to being ready for Deadmines. Could almost taste it, but I wanted to be safe and get to 20 before I tackled the challenge. Even if I only planned on healing it, I'd rather be safe than start over. At this point, I had sunk in at least 12 hours in. An idea of doing that over again, well, didn't sound nice. And since we're basically at an intermission, I'll just let you folks know about another few challenges I'd run into. I chose self-found for this journey, so there were a few quests, including a blacksmithing one, that I just couldn't do because they required light leather, which I couldn't get because I couldn't access the auction house, and I already had mining and blacksmithing. I later learned I could get around this with fishing, but at the time, that did slow down my progress with the blacksmithing quest. Intermission over, and as you can see, I'm really starting to gather up some quests for the Deadmines. We're getting so close, boys. So we decided to catch some stray quests by the coast, and had our closest call yet. Do you see how low my health is here? Can you see that little speck of green? Yeah, literally popped every cooldown, and barely survived. But thankfully, a friendly rogue named Sprint was nearby, and with his assistance, I no longer felt immediate Murloc danger. And together we flew through the rest of the Murlocs, and even got to work on other quests. I came clean to Sprint that it was my first time playing Classic, and how I felt about it so far. He shared that even after 20 years, he's still in love with Classic, and that he would love to be able to experience it fresh again. It was a wholesome moment, but also an eye-opening one. I come from the retail side of things, where I've mostly heard complaints about the game and how much people hate it, but so far in Classic, I'm loving it, and all I see around me is people loving it. Maybe there's something to the magic of this game from 2004 that just does it for people. Maybe that magic has been lost on retail. That's a topic for another video. Sprint and I added each other as friends. We finished up our quests together, and we wished each other good luck. I escorted this Defias trader for a quest, bringing us even closer to the Deadmines, and we clawed ourselves to 19. We grabbed Gryan's quest for Van Cleef's head, which, to my understanding, was the final boss of classic Deadmines, returned to Loch Modan, tried fighting one of these elite ogres solo. It didn't work. Grouped up with a paladin whose first language wasn't English, and together took down Old Sooty, which, can I just say, this is another magical moment for Classic, where I'm bonding through combat with someone that doesn't even speak the same language as me. So cool, dude. So cool. Together we found a group for the elite ogres, and proceeded to absolutely decimate the local ogre population. And in the process, get the materials we needed to thwart the Dark Iron plot to destroy Stone Rot Dam. We dinged one more level, South Park style, with this boar, picked up some paladin abilities in Stormwind, and conveniently saw in guild chat that they needed a healer for Deadmines. I asked if 20 was too low to join because I genuinely didn't know if it was, and thankfully it wasn't, so I got the invite. So we grouped up, made our way in, and got started. The Warlock asked somebody to share the quest, so I shared all I had, and we flew through all the trash in between us and the entrance to the Deadmines. We had finally made our way in, boys, and I was feeling optimistic. Nervous, but optimistic. So far, the group seemed chill and competent. so I was pretty sure we weren't going to have too much trouble. Even if they tested me sometimes by needlessly standing in fire. And while the standing in fire issue would be a reoccurring problem, I could handle it. And before I knew it, we were already at our first boss, who we slew easy peasy. The warlock sacrificing his health definitely stressed me out a little though, not gonna lie. He did have the courtesy to bandage himself after though, which was super appreciated. And after some strategic pulls to clear this room, we started the second boss, knocked him out of his mech, and kicked his butt for real. This ramp was a little stressful for the pulls and the burning dot debuffs, but clearing it didn't take long, and some of my group took a little smelting break. We were quickly making good progress, but some of the drops we needed for the quests were still eluding us, so I knew we'd be returning the Deadmines at least once more. For this next boss, my group wanted me to stun him right before he hit 60%, but I didn't manage to. I'm guessing it was to avoid this exact mechanic where you get stunned and just have to sit there for a while listening to this cow monologue. And the other pally, aka the tank, tried to show me how it's done, but he messed it up too. So yeah, more monologuing. Still, that slab of beef went down without issue, and this sweet hammer dropped. Sadly, I lost the roll for it by literally 1 point. What a tease. Here we encounter Cookie, which, as a retail player, I'm used to him being the final boss of the dungeon, but it was cool to see him at the very least. I'm not exactly sure what happened here, but they all panicked, ran, and jumped on this wheel, so I just followed suit. If someone knows what happened, can you explain it to me in the comments? But we were coming up on the final boss here, and needless to say, I was excited. Some of the group was a bit nervous, but I was absolutely confident we had this in the bag. And after taking out his minions, all that was left was Edwin Van Cleef himself. And with his death, we cleared the Deadmines and got a ding in the process. Not sure how, but we looted his head, and the group went our separate ways. I equipped some of the killer gear upgrades I got in the mines, handed over the head of Van Cleef, got some badass new pants, and was declared defender of the people for my deeds. Well, my verdict? Classic WoW is kind of amazing. There's something so magical about the journey of leveling in Classic, the world, and how it feels alive, the satisfaction of the pacing and the combat, and so much more. I could honestly do an entire video on how much more I've gotten out of this experience so far than I ever have from retail. Don't get me wrong, I've loved my time with retail, but Classic just hits different. I can truly see now that all the hype for Classic, yeah, it's real. It isn't just rose-tinted glasses and nostalgia, but before you think that's the end, it isn't. We'll be picking this right back up where we left off in the next episode. That's right, boys. I'm hooked on Classic, and I'm determined to hit 60. Thank you so much for watching. Wishing you many dings, fat loots. Control Shift Lift, signing off.